Radio Rahim with Eddie Hearn. It almost seems redundant at this point to talk about the magnitude of the event and the Riyadh season of it all. I have to give you and Frank and all the promoters credit for putting on what might be the best year in boxing, at least my best year, all things considered. I was talking to Frank last week, and then it occurred to me, yes, for the fans, it's been a great year. For the magnitude of the sport and the events we've had, it's been fantastic. But for you personally, even though these are the biggest fights, has it possibly been the worst year for Matchroom in boxing?
I don't really look at it like that. I mean, when you look at the worst year, financially, it's been the best year we've ever had. From a fight perspective, it's been the best year we've ever had. Unfortunately, I say to people that when you make big fights, when you put fighters in real fights, you're going to lose. You hope you can win some. Do you know what I mean? But we do so many shows where no one really talks about our fighters that are winning. If Jai Opetaia wins tomorrow night, then it's no one's saying, well, Matchroom got a good win on the... It's just they're looking out for the losses. And, if we're Edgar Berlanga going against Canelo Alvarez, sorry, we lost and we were expected to lose, but our stock rose. He made a lot of money. He put up a great performance. So you can't really have it both ways. In the past, I was criticised for not getting our fighters beat and putting them in easy fights. Now we're putting them in the deep end and trying to make the most competitive fights and compelling fights for the fans. They're not going to win every single week. Do you know what I mean? So it's weird, So for me, that's all I want to do. And at the end of the day, we will put our fighters in fights that they believe, their team believe, will win. And if they don't, they weren't good enough to win. And that's just called sport. Do you know what I mean?
I've been in this game longer than most would imagine and been watching it since a child. There's the HBO model. There's what made sense for promoters before, which is all these fighters that you just named are top tier marquee fighters who you would otherwise be building to one big fight maybe.
Boring, isn't it?
But it allows you to hold on to your commodities.
But fuck the commodity. We've got loads of commodities and it's sport. If you're good enough, you'll win. I'm not interested in holding on to a commodity. If I did that, AJ would have never fought Alexander Usyk. But then again, he would have never fought Vladimir Klitschko back in the day. We're trying to make the big fights. Look at tomorrow night. You've got Bivol Beterbiev. If I wanted to hold on to my commodity, I'd keep him away from Beterbiev. Is that what you want? Or instead, we gamble in a 50-50 fight. And by the way, if we lose, people will go, Eddie's fighter lost. How fucked up's that? Well, do you not want me to make the fight the best fight in boxing? Do you know what I mean? And by the way, if we win, we're pound for pound top 3. It's called the risk and the love of sport. So
surely
boxing's a weird game.
You're not going to get any criticism from the fans for the fights that are being made. Yeah. But what I'm getting at is how does it change the business of promoting? Because, yes, okay, holding on to commodities sounds bad, like you're keeping fights away from fans, but it wasn't makeable because everyone wants to keep their stars in line.
The perception is that Matchroom are on a bit of a losing streak for fighters. And yet we have had our best year we've ever had as a business. Do you know what I mean?
Money-wise.
Yeah, and so have the fighters. So, therefore, as a business, the reason that's happening is because we're seeing the best fights, the most competitive fights. The other option is to hold on, not get a fighter beat, and make a load of boring fights where you don't lose. I mean, that's not what I'm about. I'm about giving the best fights for the fans. I'm about giving my fighters the biggest opportunities. Now, you've got to be good enough to win. AJ the other week, he wasn't good enough to win on the night. If he wins, he's the world heavyweight champion again. But what a dramatic night. I mean, people will talk about that for years. You don't win every time. So, the tide will turn and we'll win some of these key fights. But if we don't, you're still getting the best fights in boxing.
Do you need to sign more or higher level talent than what you've been doing?
When you say higher level talent, I mean, look at my talent. Bivol, Jaron Ennis, Bam Rodriguez. There's 3 fighters in the top 8 of the pound for pound list. I mean, we've got world champions in virtually every other weight class in boxing. But I've got Shakur Stevenson. I've got the best talent in world boxing. But I'm going to push them to take the biggest fights in boxing, to make them the most money, to give them the legacy, to give fans the entertainment. And if we don't lose, I'm not going to sit there and go, I need to stop doing this. I need to just win. It's not about me. It's not about Matchroom winning. Yeah, that's the hardcore fan weirdness of boxing, of Oscar De La Hoya. It's like, yes, Eddie lost. It's like, well, that's because we're in real fights. Like, William Zepeda is not going to lose to Maxi Hughes. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know who else he's got.
Well, he's getting in this.
Virgil Ortiz did lose to Sergey Bokacic, but he's not going to lose in the fights. They didn't intend for him to lose in that fight. Do you know what I mean? So they're not making really tough fights between the star fighters and other people. That's what I'm trying to do. I want Jaron Ennis to move up and fight Terence Crawford. I want Shakur to fight Zepeda, then Tank. Do you not want me to make that fight? Because we might lose. Who cares? But, the bigger the fights, the better the business.
It may feel like I'm putting the stick on you, but because, to your point, people like to see falls from grace. You've been on top so long. You've got Anthony Joshua. We didn't get a chance to talk right after that fight, but it would seem that the heavyweight division of the Matchroom stable is pretty depleted. Yeah. And Joshua's certainly always been your biggest horse in this race. Is the rematch, I know whatever Anthony wants, all that stuff, but from a promoter's perspective, is the rematch with Dubois right away the wisest path for an Anthony Joshua?
I think you have to look at the individual and what you want. So in that instance, you say, what does Anthony Joshua want? He wants to be world heavyweight champion. He has a straight shot at the world heavyweight championship if he wants it, in a tough fight that he just lost. Or he can sit around for a year and hope that Tyson Fury decides to fight him, or someone else decides to fight him, or rebuild.
The rebuild, keep the brand, like two back-to-back knockouts. I know, but this is how promoters think usually.
Promoters. I don't think like that. Rebuild. Build the brand.
Back.
Fuck that, Rahim. What's wrong with you? Roll the fucking dice, baby. Can you beat Daniel Dubois? Yes, I can. There's no fucking question. Yeah? I've got a straight shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. That's what he's in the game for. You should be commended for that. Little bit crazy? Maybe. Little bit scary? Very. You want crazy? You want scary? You want a fucking war? Let's make it happen. Let's go and rip the fucking belt off him. Do you know what I mean? Or let's have 3 easy fights that are so fucking irrelevant. We're long in the game. We're not. If we were 31 and we got 3 years left or 5 years left, I did it. We did that after Usyk. We took 4 fights after Usyk. Jermaine Franklin, Robert Helenius, Otto Wilding, Francis Ngannou. We don't need the build-up fights. Do you know what I mean? Like I say to AJ, he'd never be able to forgive himself for letting that opportunity at the World Heavyweight Championship pass him by. Now, for what? To wait for Fury Usyk? What if someone got an injury? And then what if Fury lost and then he just fights him for no belt? We can do that another time. He wants the World Championship. And that's right there on a plate for him. Now he's got to win, but it's there. You can touch it, you can smell it, you can feel it. The others are just fantasy. Rebuild this, build the brand this, wait for someone in a year. Fuck that.
Before I let you go, I got to talk about the Twitter beefs and all of the kind of machinations that go along with trying to keep fighters happy and keep, I guess, yourself out of beefs. Fighters tend to take shots at you. I've seen that Haney, of all people, seemed to be very upset about his ticket situation. And you guys are yelling at each other at ringside. Like, what is the relationship between you and the Haneys at the point?
So I actually phoned him today to talk to him about some business. But look, I've got 100 fighters plus. They're all asking me for tickets for that fight. Devin Haney's not my fighter, contractually. I like him, we've got good history, but I have to look after my guys. And I just didn't like the way that he asked for it, and I specifically didn't like the way that he went to Twitter to complain that I didn't give him tickets. You got a problem, just tell me. Do you know what I mean? So, look, it's been a treacherous time for Devin Haney. Do you know what I mean? I don't think people have quite given him the sympathy that he deserves. He's not looking for it, but what happened to him was pretty bad. Do you know what I mean? And,
to that end, what happened to him was pretty bad. I think we can all agree, especially if there's PEDs involved, there's no excuse, except that he's taken a step that is unusual in boxing and has been criticized with this lawsuit. Do you think that is a reasonable course of action for him, and how does that change the game of boxing?
I think, I don't want to go into it too much because, Ryan Garcia reached out to me the other day and we had a conversation because he feels that I'm commenting on all this stuff that Ryan Garcia is not my fighter. Devin Haney's not my fighter, yet all you guys asked me my opinion of the situation. So I'm just answering the media. So I'm going to let those guys duke it out, but it's a pivotal moment for boxing because it's never been done before and there is logic to it. And it may be something that really detracts future fighters from using PEDs because sometimes you might get a 6-month ban or a year ban. It's not really a lot, do you know what I mean? But if there's a financial element to it, which could be substantial, maybe that will deter people from using them. But good luck to both. I think they're both very important to the sport of boxing, and God bless.
And lastly, you're here with Beard Shalom. We see Oscar De La Hoya on the cusp. He'll be here with a Riyadh season event in just a month's time. What's your relationship like with Oscar after? Because all I see is clapbacks on Thursday, and it seems personal. It doesn't really seem to have a lot to do with business.
Very personal to him. Oscar's a strange one. To me, he'll hug me, he'll give me that cheesy grin, and then there's something burning deep inside of him. I don't know what I've done wrong, but, he just needs to chill out, really. You got that event coming up, Queensbury running that event, with a lot of Golden Boy fighters on it as well. He's not, in my opinion, he's not really interested in doing business. And when you look at, I was naming my roster and my stars. When you look at their roster, it's extremely thin. Put Ryan Garcia to the side because he's out for a year. But Jaime Munguia's gone, left them. You've got Virgil Ortiz, good young fighter. I thought he lost in his last fight, but not really a draw. Zerdo, Bivo schooled him a couple of years ago. And then that's kind of like, there's not much else there. So the perception of Oscar is very good. He's a superstar. He doesn't need to be angry at me. I'm never going to achieve what Oscar's achieved in life. But I don't know, there's something eating away in his heart when it comes to Eddie Hearn. I find it incredibly exciting and humbling.
That seems to be common with all promoters at some point.
No, he's different. He's different. Because you see, with me and Frank Warren, for years and years, we never spoke. If you come up to me, and then you watch this other stuff, that's snidey. When me and Warren weren't talking, if I see him, he'd probably just give me an evil. Say, fuck you. Do you know what I mean? That's fine. That's real. I don't like the other stuff. But listen, it is what it is. I deal with different personalities every day. And, with all due respect to the two companies, we're on another level.
Even if you guys are not all getting along as best friends, you're clearly all working together. Obviously, His Excellency has made that a requirement. How does this change the way fighters choose promoters and what differentiates Matchroom from anyone else if everybody can work at Riyadh season and Turkey's actually making the matchups?
Yeah, obviously some promoters have got better relationships than others with His Excellency, but it's not really necessarily just about the relationships. It's about the fighters that you've got. His Excellency won't make a fight because it's with that promoter. He'll make a fight because he wants to make that fight. Do you know what I mean? So, you've got this week, we've got 3 fights. We've got the main event with Matchroom, and we got 2 fighters on the undercard. On the Fury card, I've got 3 fights on a Fury card. So it's amazing for us. And then on the AJ card, I think we only had 1 on the undercard, where normally we'd have the whole card. Do you know what I mean? So there's no logic to it. It's just the card that His Excellency wants to build. So I think there's a little bit more to it for a fighter than choosing a promoter. You need a knowledgeable promoter that's, going to build your profile on the way up, going to guide you in the right way. And then when he's there, make sure he's capable of making the marquee fights that will create a legacy for you. But most importantly, someone that's actually got a solid TV deal. There's a lot of promoters out there at the moment that are holding on by the skin of their teeth to their TV deal, and they'll be gone very soon. So you need to know that you got someone who's solid in the game, and there's not many.
Is that the Matchroom pitch that differentiates you from other promoters?
I mean, we have extensive, solid, long-term broadcast contracts that mean we are completely solid to maintain all of our obligations to fighters over a long period of time. If you don't have a long TV deal, if you've got 6 months left and the rumour mill is you're gone as a fighter, I'd be saying, shit, so what's the contingency plan? Or can you confirm to me that you do have a long-term contract with a broadcaster? They can't do it.
I heard you tease that there's a big heavyweight signing in the works.
There's a few.
A few?
There's a few. Listen, we're going to be making some major signings. over the next couple of weeks.
Where are you finding new heavyweight contenders?
Maybe they don't have to be new. Maybe they can be existing.
And that might rock the boat with all this promoter kumbaya.
Oh, that's what you love, right?
A little bit.
Okay.
I'll be there for it. Radio Rahim with Eddie Hearn, Riyadh season, a magnificent event. I guess we'll talk about this event next time because there's so much to say. Thank you for the time.
No worries.
Radio Rahim with Eddie Hearn.